What's up guys, welcome to my video. Today we're going to be taking a look at Frost Death Knight in patch 7.0, and surprisingly not a lot has changed. We still have Obliterate, we still got Frost Strike, we got Howling Blast. Remorseless Winter is no longer a talent. We basically get it passively now, and it's a 20-second cooldown, and it also deals damage as well. We get Killing Machine procs, which gives us free critical strikes. And then we get Rhyme procs, which gives us free Howling Blast. So, as a whole, the Frost spec hasn't really changed that much. So, in patch 7.0 and in Legion, what is a rotation going to look like? Well, it's actually super easy. Basically just cast Obliterate to deplete your runes. When you got Rhyme procs, you just cast Howling Blast. When you have Runic Power, then you start using your Frost Strikes, and then once again, if you have runes up, you cast Obliterate, get Runic Power, cast Frost Strikes, and ultimately that is the basic rotation for Frost Death Knights now. It's actually really easy. Now, one of the things that I'm debating now is if it's worth using a rune on Remorseless Winter, because although it does damage, the damage isn't actually all that great. As you can see here, I'm casting it, and it doesn't appear to do too much. I think it's right here. So ultimately, I think it's up to you if you feel it's worth it. But Frost Death Knight as a whole is a really straightforward spec. The rotation is really straightforward. Just obliterates, Frost Strikes, cast Remorseless Winter if you have some downtime, or if you have the rune, and that's pretty much it, guys. There's really nothing to Frost Death Knight now. I know back in before 7.0, you know, there was always so many questions like, oh man, should I be going two-handers? Should I go one-handers? Should I be using Plague Strike and all that? Not anymore. Blizzard pretty much just did away with all that nonsense because I can kind of understand. There was a lot of confusion in the community as to what weapons you should be using, whether you should be using Obliterate at all. But now it's pretty straightforward. Your main strikes are going to be Obliterate, Frost Strike. That's basically it. So that being said, let's take a look at some of the talents that might be really good come Legion. Alright guys, so now let's take a look at the talents. So for the first tier, I went with Icy Talons, and I really like this one because it has really good synergy with this talent right here, Runic Attenuation, where your auto attacks generate 1 runic power. So basically, Icy Talons by itself grants you a 10% boost in attack speed, and you can actually stack this up to 3 times whenever you use Frost Strike. Second tier, I went with Frozen Pulse, and Frozen Pulse, what it does is whenever your runes are on cooldown, in other words, you have no runes up, your auto attacks basically do 6,987 frost damage to all enemies. So it's kind of nice because as a Frost Death Knight, your primary goal is to always have your runes on cooldown. Because obviously when you have your runes on cooldown, you're generating runic power, and that runic power can be used towards Frost Strikes, which are our hardest hitting ability as a Frost Death Knight. So I went ahead and I went with Frozen Pulse here because as a Frost Death Knight, I find myself always having my runes on cooldown. I don't think there's a time where I don't have any runes up. I'm pretty much always depleting them. The next tier, I went with Hungry and Rune Weapon. This one is actually a 3-minute cooldown, and what it does is you gain 1 rune and 5 runic power instantly, and every 1.5 seconds for 12 seconds. So this is actually what I found is this talent right here is really awesome when you don't have any runes up and you don't have any runic power up. In other words, you're kind of in a downtime. You can actually pop this, and it'll instantly regenerate your runes and your runic power. I haven't really found the best way to use this, but I'm pretty sure that you can pop this, like I said, when you have downtime or during your burst, because, like I said, generating one rune and 5 runic power instantly and every 1.5 seconds for 12 seconds is actually pretty huge. Next here I went with Winter is Coming. Basically this, there really wasn't one good talent here. I don't really think it matters what you go with here, but I went with Winter is Coming because I think this is really awesome if there are mobs, say like you're doing dungeons or in a raid where there's like ads that need to be, I don't know, CC'd. This can actually come in handy. Your Remorseless Winter basically stuns the ads whenever you have Pillar of Frost. Alright guys, so now let's move on to this tier here. I went with Permafrost, and I really like this talent here because whenever you deal auto attacks or damage with auto attacks, you gain an absorption equal to 30% of the damage that you've dealt. So I like it a lot because it's passive, and that means that whenever you're auto attacking a target, you always have an absorb shield up. This tier right here, I went with Runic Attenuation, and like I mentioned before, it has really good synergy with Icy Talons. And what Runic Attenuation does is whenever you auto attack, you generate 1 runic power. And from my experience and my testing with this talent, I pretty much felt like I was never starved of runic power. I always had runic power to cast frost strikes, things like that. So it was actually really good. And lastly, Breath of Sindragosa is a really good talent here because I did test some of these out, and Breath of Sindragosa pretty much won out. The reason being is that now with Frost Death Knight being streamlined, you could pretty much maintain Breath of Sindragosa up for a good 20 to 30 seconds, especially with this talent, Runic Attenuation, and Icy Talons. They all have really good synergy with each other, and Breath of Sindragosa actually does a nice amount of damage. So, all in all, these are the talents I recommend you go with in a PvE environment. Anyway, they're really, really good. Of course, that's just my opinion. You guys can feel free to test them out, but these are the ones that have pretty much the best synergy, at least at level 100.